Hello, everyone. Welcome to Geeks Not Nerds, the podcast. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
Eric, welcome to the program. Today we're going to do something that is kind of special for us. This is a little nostalgic for me and Eric. Today we're going to talk about Days of Future Past. We're going to do a little bit of a speculative discussion about what we think might happen in Days of Future Past and maybe even beyond. And this is kind of nostalgic for me and Eric because doing a speculation on an X-Men movie is the first thing Eric and I ever did together.
Did you rewatch that video?
Not in preparation for this, but I have before.
I can't stand the sound of my own voice, so I'm sure it's awful.
What's really fun about that is that so Eric and I did a speculative conversation about First Class.
Were we right?
No, we weren't right about much of anything. But well, one of the things that I remember being in there that I find very ironic is that at the time that we recorded that, we knew so little about First Class that Bryan Singer was still set to direct it.
Oh, really?
And here we are, 4 years later, and we're talking about an X-Men movie directed by Bryan Singer.
I think Bryan Singer's found out he can't do anything else. I don't want to be mean, but literally everything he's done since he left the X-Men franchise has tanked. Like he didn't do First Class because he wanted to do Jack the Giant Slayer, and that bombed.
Was it bad?
I didn't see it. I've not heard good things, but I know it was like a box office bomb.
You know, that's really strange considering that he wasn't a comic book fan when he did X-Men.
I just think X-Men suits his sensibilities better than he realizes.
Yeah, I think maybe now he realizes it is the thing.
Well, I saw an interview with him recently. He did a thing right after the trailer hit on Twitter where he let people ask him questions and he answered, I guess, select questions. And somebody had asked if there were X-Men characters he hasn't gotten to use yet that he wanted to use, and he named off, I think Gambit and a couple other characters that are kind of obvious. He's like, and some I don't want to talk about, which makes it sound like he wants to do more movies.
Yeah, well, and we're going to talk about this here in a minute, but given the nature of this project, it sure seems like the kind of thing that's going to open up the floodgates to all kinds of other stuff. And
we know we have an X-Force movie next, or the following year.
Yeah, and that makes me think that Bryan Singer is going to come back for another one. I would be really surprised if he wasn't.
Do you think all X-Men films, this is kind of superfluous, but do you think all X-Men films from this point on will have a subtitle? Or do you think we will get an X-Men 4?
No, I think they'll all have subtitles.
I hope so. I like the subtitles.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever get an X-Men 4, because this is effectively X-Men 4.
Yeah, oh no, totally.
And I'm really excited about that. It's really neat how this is First Class 2 and X-Men 4 all at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe I'm going to skip to the end. I think this is going to effectively reboot the X-Men universe.
I do too, and let's get to that a little bit later, because yeah, that's the big thing that I had on my mind too. But why don't we start with the trailer, because that just came out, and that's obviously the whole reason we're doing this. I don't want to do a breakdown or review of the trailer. I don't review trailers. But I would like to maybe start our discussion there and branch off from the trailer. What was for you the most exciting thing about that trailer?
There's one line. It's one of the few lines in the trailer, but specifically everything with Professor X in the 70s as like a burned out, like really disenfranchised guy, and that line he says where he says, "I don't want your suffering. I don't want your future." I love the idea of somebody that gets to see where his life leads and decides that he doesn't want any of that. In the context of the trailer, I can't tell whether it's just Xavier's life or the bad future. I really hope it's just Xavier's life, that he doesn't want to live an entire life trying to help those that hate and fear him.
Oh, I think that's exactly what it is. I hope you're right.
All of that stuff just immediately makes me super excited for this movie. And I like First Class more than you do. I think First Class is the best X-Men film yet. If the entire film is as strong as the scenes I'm seeing with Professor X here, this may be better than First Class.
I think I like First Class almost as much as you do. I only say that I still like X2 better because I just like that movie more. But
I think
I don't know.
X2 is a close second.
I don't know that X2 is a better film than First Class. For me, it's my favorite, but I don't know that it's a better film. No, First Class is brilliant. It's just that it's got its continuity issues that might be solved by this. We'll see. Obviously, a lot of people, even before this trailer, were suspecting that part of the point of this movie is to fix some of those continuity mistakes. Given that, as you said earlier, it might just be straight up rebooting it, that might become completely pointless and not matter after this. We'll see where it goes. The thing I was most excited about, Eric, is getting to see both Professor X's on screen together.
Yeah, that was really, really cool.
As soon as it was announced that Patrick Stewart was going to be in this movie, the first thing I said was, could we please have them on screen together? And it's such a big deal that the trailer has already revealed it.
I'm interested to see if we get the Magnetos to meet too.
Now, I will say that a part of me, and remember, of course, this is a speculative kind of video, so I am aware that we don't know enough to make these kinds of calls, but I'm wondering if it's not possible that they don't actually meet for real, and that there's like a kind of telepathic kind of thing that happens to make that happen.
I'm calling it now. The scene that we have in the trailer is symbolic, and that Professor X is actually Wolverine. Professor X is talking through Wolverine, and we're seeing it as Professor X talking to Professor X.
Yeah, I think that's probably what's happening, and I would be more excited if we actually got to see Professor X, and him on screen together, and it really be them together. But given that he's sending Wolverine back in time, he's clearly not going back in time himself, unless something happens in the movie where timelines converge, which is possible but not likely.
No, I don't like that it's Wolverine,
I know a lot of people don't like that.
but here's my thing. It is set in the 70s, and Wolverine is maybe the only character who would be a full-grown adult in this future and the 70s, so that he can go back into. I think it makes more sense than I want it to make.
Well,
Because I want to be angry it's Wolverine.
I think it's really interesting that it's the kind of time travel where you have to send your intellect back
Well,
into
that
your
is what
body.
it was in Days of Future Past, and I was surprised by that, and I was really happy to see that, because that's what is in the original Days of Future Past. Is
Yeah,
that
I knew that, and I just didn't think go. I didn't. What I'm saying is, I didn't think they'd go
I
there.
didn't either. I assumed it was going to be time travel, like
So that's
literal
really,
time travel.
yeah, that's neat.
The one thing I didn't think of, I think this is going to be closer to the original Days of Future Past than people think it's going to be. I think most of this is going to be set in the 70s. I think it's going to be like Days of Future Past, where the A story is the present or the 70s, and we just kind of sometimes cut to the future. But I think the story is in the past.
I think that it is brilliant of them if I'm right about this and this is what they're doing. If they're not doing any present day and it's all 70s and far in the future. Now we don't know. They might do present day. I'm a little, and I want to talk about this too. I'm a little confused about how this works with the teaser we got
I was
in
thinking about that too.
Wolverine. I'm not real sure how that works because that seems to be present day. He didn't go to the future.
Well, Wolverine could
Um,
be in an airport at any day in any age.
well, that's true, but he's clearly not future Wolverine.
I know I'm joking. I was just actually thinking about that too today, where I was like, does that make any sense?
Yeah, well, it makes me wonder if somehow is it like present. Well, at first I was like, okay, is it present day Wolverine somehow goes into the future and then his intellect gets into the past? But then I'm like, well, no, because he's got gray hair in the future.
I'm wondering if this
So it's
is.
clearly future Wolverine. It's not present day Wolverine sees the future and goes to the past, right?
Well, I'm wondering if maybe this is not like Days of Future Past, where it's the future, it's the 70s future, but maybe it's the near future to us, and like it's gone so wrong they have to fix it. Like maybe it's not the future of now, it's kind of now in this universe.
Well, yeah, if it's an alternate reality sort of thing, that makes perfect sense.
Because that's what Age of
Although,
Apocalypse was. Age of Apocalypse wasn't an alternate future; it was an alternate present.
but I like the idea. Oh, you're right. But Days of Future Past was the
Right,
future.
right, right. That's what I'm saying. Is it might not be like Days of Future Past, but it's still the future because it's the future of the '70s.
But I kind of want it to be set farther in the future, as far as not being just right after where we left the next three, just because all of everybody being older makes so much more sense.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I think it's so cool if they're actually farther in the future because it's like, well, we could have a 75-year-old Professor X and Magneto now.
Right.
But yeah, because the thing is, if it's an alternate future where what we're seeing isn't the the way it would have really gone right after X3. It's interesting how all of the actors are the same. Everything looks kind of the same. But you know what I mean. I'm not sure what they're doing with that. I thought we were gonna get something that was the what happens after X3, but then like the future's messed up.
Right.
I'm just not sure how all that's gonna work out. It's kind of interesting.
I'm
Um,
surprised we didn't get any Sentinels. I thought that they were going to throw that in. Like usually with a trailer like this, like you'll see the title card, and then like they'll get you with that like last image. And I thought we were going to see a Sentinel. I was surprised how serious this trailer is. Like
yeah,
it
me too.
doesn't feel like a trailer for a summer blockbuster.
No, and that's what I really like about it is it feels very intimate.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting because there's very little action in this trailer. There's a lot of talking, there's a lot of people crying, and there's a lot of people ducking and hiding.
Yeah, and we don't know what they're ducking and hiding from. I mean, we do. It's probably Sentinels, but in the
Spoiler
trailer,
warning, it might be Sentinels.
well, is the like kind of middle aged to older guy with the mustache in the 70s? Is that supposed to be Trask, or do we know who that
That is
is?
Bolivar Trask. He's played by Peter Dinklage, who I'm excited to see. They wanted him as MODOK, and the studio said you can't have MODOK in your Captain America movie, so now he's in X-Men.
Oh, well, that's sad, but it's cool. I think it's cool we're getting Trask. I'm with you. It's surprising that we're getting Trask and not that we got Trask in the trailer, but not Sentinels, because Sentinels would have meant something to more people.
Well, and more than that, I think it would have meant something to more non-moviegoers that there's giant robots in this X-Men movie.
Absolutely. No, I think they are selling this on Stewart and McKellen.
I think they're selling this.
Fair enough.
I think they're selling this on who plays young Professor X. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
McAvoy, yeah. I mean, McAvoy, yeah. I mean, they are to a degree, but you saw more.
You see a
Stewart,
lot of Professor X and Magneto in the future, but it
right?
looks like it's McAvoy's movie. I don't know. Like I see this trailer and I think it's a movie about burned out '70s Professor X.
No, no, no. I'm with you. That's what it's about. If you're looking at the movie trying to figure out what the story is, but the trailer is trying to get people that aren't thinking about that to go
Right,
see it
right,
because Stewart's in it. I'm not sure we didn't see every scene Stewart's in
right. You
because
might
I
be
don't think
right.
he's going to be all over that movie. I really don't. I think you're going to see him about as much as you did next to.
I'm really interested to see how I'm interested to know how young Magneto fits into this because based on what we see in the trailer, like we see him, but I don't know what he has to do with anything.
I don't either, and I want to know if I want to know if Mystique has too much iron in her blood.
No, she's got handcuffs on.
Oh, I didn't see the handcuffs. I've watched the trailer 3 times and I kept trying to figure out where the metal was.
Yeah, yeah, she's got handcuffs on.
Oh, okay. Well, then my joke's not funny. I
I
like my
think it's
joke.
really interesting how scared she looks.
Too much iron in her blood. Yeah, I'm with you. That's interesting, and it's one of those things where you're like, okay, does that happen in the regular timeline, or is that after things are altered? So now she gets to where she doesn't want to be with Magneto.
Well, okay, I want to say something negative. Actually, I want to say two things negative, but the one specifically I want to talk about is
You always want to say negative
we
things.
get one shot of Storm and she looks awful. in one frame where she doesn't speak, I can already tell she acts badly in this.
Yeah, but you can also tell that that's probably all she even gets to do in the movie. So
Although it's the best her hair's looked out of the four.
her whole role is probably to look dramatically depressed.
I'm wondering if she has a thing with Wolverine because they have a thing in Days of Future Past. Um, and they kind of maybe have a thing in X3.
Yeah, that's true.
But the other thing is, I've seen a lot of people saying it looks like there's going to be too many characters. I don't think most of these characters are characters. I think people forget that, God, I would have hated to be where, like, the kind of, like, net savvy, like, aware of everything and all the casting going on that I am now when, like, X-Men 1 comes out. Because, like, I would have been like, oh, man, they cast Jubilee and they cast Kitty Pryde oh, they cast, with X-Men 2, they cast Siren and they recast Jubilee and Kitty Pryde. Surely that means that they've got something to do with for these characters this time. And Colossus is going to be an X-Men too. I think a lot of these characters are going to have one or two lines, and they're supporting characters in the background. I don't think any of these characters are going to be main characters.
No, I think this is another Magneto and Xavier movie.
Oh, you know what I think is weird? How little of that we get in the X-Men comics. I was thinking about this. So little of X-Men comics is actually about Magneto and Xavier, and that has been the crux of all of the films.
Well, I think part of that with the movies is because they cast actors that people love seeing on screen together,
Well, and
and they've now done it twice.
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Although I haven't seen McAvoy much of anything since First Class, but he looks fantastic in this trailer.
Yeah.
He's really my biggest draw from this trailer. Is I really want to see what McAvoy's doing. I mean,
Well, he was my biggest draw for First Class. I mean, everybody was always talking about how great Fassbender
that's
is, and
because
he's
Fassbender
great.
fast-bended that movie.
Yeah, no, he was fantastic, but I'm such a Stewart fan that I walked into that movie and I thought I was watching a young Patrick Stewart, and I
Well,
lost my mind.
the thing is, I don't care about Professor X. I like Patrick Stewart, but like he still doesn't like that character doesn't give me anything. And McAvoy is the first time I've ever cared about Professor X outside of the guy that gives the orders. And it looks like we're getting even more of that here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. One thing that you gotta wonder, of course, is how he gets to that place that he is in the '70s,
I
given
yeah,
that that in First Class he's got his head together. I mean, yeah, he drinks a little bit, but he's not the crazy party kid that you thought maybe he would be when you walked into that. I mean, he's Professor X. He's the same guy.
whereas here he looks like a burned out hippie.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting. The thing
But it also makes potentially a whole lot of sense because I mean like he has his breakup with Magneto, and then maybe other terrible things happen after that, maybe even regarding Magneto. There's clearly several years between the movies, and so maybe he's going on his quest to unite humans and mutants, and it's not going well, so he gives up.
Yeah. The thing that I think is the most interesting with all of that visually is that the X Mansion maybe already exists. Which we kind of have it at the end of First Class, but we see him walking through the fully built like X halls that we know, and he blows smoke off of Cerebro. And so did he maybe already have a run as like X-Men and it didn't
I
work
think
out?
that's I think that's what happened. You know what I'm wondering now? Now that we're talking about this, what if the idea is something something changes the past that makes Professor X give up before he was supposed to, and then future Professor X sends Wolverine back to try to fix the timeline.
Well, that's the thing I can't figure out from this trailer is why they have to go back to the 70s and not say X2.
Well, that yeah, but that's why I'm thinking maybe the whole catalyst is Professor X never gave up the first time around.
Maybe. But then
And
how
something
would
something
future
changes the
Professor
past.
X know? You know what I mean? Like, how would he know that he was different?
I have no idea, but it might have something to do with his telepathic powers.
Uh, I think
I don't know.
I
I'm spitballing. That's the whole point.
leading up to this trailer, with everything with this, I assumed that the end game was to get past Xavier and Magneto to current times, so that they can have those characters, but they don't have to keep getting Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, and I don't think they're gonna actually bring anybody from the past into the present.
No, my theory is looking at all of this and really kind of thinking about the fact that they're in the 70s.
This
I
is a reboot.
I think they're undoing, which I think is interesting if Bryan Singer stays on, that he's undoing his own films. I think
Yeah,
they're undoing, in continuity, undoing everything that's not First Class.
yeah. I think that's also what they're doing. And if they do it and it's successful, it means that they're doing what Abrams did with Star Trek, but smarter.
Well, and not just that, but it feels like an actual progression where it wouldn't just be a reboot. It would, you would still, if you were to sit down and watch these, you would still go one, two, three, First Class this. You know what I mean? Like, as opposed to Abrams reboot, which is like, okay, everything's different now, go.
Well, except that Abrams reboot tries to be that way with old Spock, because the old
Yeah,
Spock they're using is Ambassador Spock from Unification and TNG. They're coming from a place there, so they're trying to make it Star Trek 11, but it's a sequel and a reboot and a prequel all simultaneously, kind of. But with this, if they're doing it the way it looks like maybe they're doing it, they would actually be keeping in mind what exactly the catalyst is that changes everything, and potentially keep it consistent to the point where it feels more like a progression and a smarter progression and not just a gimmick to reboot the universe.
well,
What I'm saying is Trekkie's big problem with Star Trek '09 was that there wasn't enough of a story there. This looks like it's very character driven.
I think with Star Trek,
Potentially.
with Star Trek '09, it's kind of like they wanted to reboot the universe, but they didn't want to annoy everybody. Whereas this, it feels like the reboot is the story.
And also it looks like it's there somewhat for the same reason. They're not progressing, they're rebooting so that they're not annoying people because they can't keep their continuity straight, so they need to start over.
Right.
I mean, there's definitely some of that going on because there were enough continuity issues with First Class where, yeah, the story is really great, but it doesn't feel like it meshes with some of the rest of what happened after it. So you had a lot of people when First Class came out that tried to say, no, look at it, it's a total straight up reboot. I'm like, no, it's not.
Well, and First Class didn't mesh with X-Men Origins Wolverine, which in and of itself didn't mesh with the other three X-Men.
Yeah, and I think I speak for a lot of X-Men fans when I say that I want to see the First Class cast make a couple more movies.
Yeah. I like his X team. I like Banshee, and I like Havoc, and I don't see any of them in this trailer.
No, so what we think is going on, right, is that like when you get to the end of this movie, you're at the end of the '70s, or you're in the '70s or whatever, but we've rolled over all the rest of continuity and we're still with these people.
Okay, so
But
here's my question. Okay,
yeah,
all right. Let's say we completely reboot.
yeah.
Do we continue into the 80s, or do we jump till now and do we get all new actors for Xavier and
Yeah,
Professor X?
and
Or
you really want to, because
I
the thing
love
is,
the idea that this X franchise will continue on as a period piece.
well, I kind of like that idea too, but I sort of figured that going back and doing Days of Future Past was a way to get around not having to make them period pieces. But now it looks like they might still have to be that.
And I'm completely fine with that. I love the idea of kind of a trilogy where First Class is the 60s, this is the 70s, and then like a third movie is the 80s. Um,
And I'm hoping that, like First Class did with the '60s, they find ways to use some of the major issues that were permeating the culture at the time to parallel what's going on in the story. We because the '60s is the perfect time to do a civil rights allegory, because it that's the time we did civil rights.
so is this movie
Um,
women's lib?
yeah, is it?
I don't know. That could be really interesting.
or something else,
Because
or is it
especially how
more,
Mystique is set up, she can play right into that.
well, to be fair, I said civil rights. It's more Cold War stuff, but given that
It's the
there,
beginning of the civil rights.
well, and I also really love that there's not much discussion about the actual civil rights movement in a movie set in the 60s that's all about civil rights. That's one of the things I thought was really brilliant about First Class. So if they do anything that kind of is reminiscent of women's lib with the 70s, it might be neat if they never discuss women's lib, but that's sort of in there just because we're in that period. I think that's really neat.
Yeah, and I know Bryan Singer has said that
And then in the 80s, you could do Urban Decay. I mean, like, there's all kinds of things you could do moving forward.
or hip hop. But a major social issue of the 80s.
I was gonna say, yeah, we can all relate to the social issues of
Hip
hip
hop.
hop. Anyway,
Um, it's plagued our country for far too long. Um, I know Bryan
I
Singer
mean,
is
hip hop is sometimes certainly about social things. Well, anyway, go ahead.
I know Bryan Singer has said that in the same way that the First Class was kind of brought like a 60s aesthetic. He said that he paid very close attention to the color palette to represent kind of 70s films. So he's thinking about the fact that he's making a movie set in the 70s to some extent.
Yeah, that's
And it
great.
should be noted that Matthew Vaughn is a screenwriter on this film.
Yeah, and I love that because it's probably going to feel really consistent with First Class because of that. One of the things I thought First Class really had going for it was that Singer was involved at all, and he co-wrote that story. Now you got the same two guys co-writing this.
I would love to see Matthew Vaughn and Bryan Singer piggyback X-Men films, just back and forth.
Yo, that's cool. Yeah. Well, and I say that I can't remember off the top of my head if Vaughn actually has a co-writing credit on First Class, but I think he does.
Oh yeah, he does. He has a writing credit on First Class.
Boy, I'm really stoked for that. I am probably more excited for this than I have been a superhero film in a really long time.
Yeah, I wasn't really jazzed for Thor. Um, I was excited for Iron Man 3 because I'm an Iron Man fan, and there was lots of armors in the trailer. Um,
Yeah.
but I gotta say, this is the first time since maybe that first Rises trailer where I think a superhero movie genuinely looks phenomenal. Like it looks like it doesn't just look like it's going to be fun, it's going to have cool action. I think this looks like it's going to be a great movie.
Well, and the other thing too is like my expectations were already really high with this because just the very notion of doing Days of Future Past is really ambitious, and the possibilities are enormously interesting. And then I saw a trailer that looked really interesting.
Oh yeah, that's the thing is this trailer is full of ideas, and
Yeah,
not even just like science fiction ideas, like ideas with people. Like I'm really interested to see how
it looks
everything
so
in this film.
thoughtful.
Yes,
Yeah,
it looks
yeah.
like a smart, introspective film.
Yeah, and with the added super fun gimmick of characters from different time periods interacting with each other, and yeah, I don't
and
know,
and
man.
the kind of, and this is going to sound kind of oxymoronic, but the fun of a dystopian future.
Well,
Um,
yeah, and the thing is, lately, our movies and frankly just culture in general. I mean, like fiction in general has been inundated with post-apocalyptic stuff, and I've gotten a little bit sick of it. But then I see this, and it's adapting a story I remember liking, and so you have to go post-apocalyptic. But like, if you do it in a certain way, it can be kind of fun and fanciful all at the same time. I love what Professor X and Magneto's future black militant suits look like.
yeah, I'm kind of digging the future costumes. I like Bishop's costume. I like Wolverine's costume. I think Blink looks amazing. Um, I think it's interesting. I went to the movies sometime earlier this year. Maybe it was May. Maybe it was April. And I remember I walked out, or I walked out of the movie. Whatever I thought about the movie, I don't know. But I remember thinking every single trailer is apocalyptic. Every single trailer was about cities burning. Um, and I think it's really interesting that amongst that's where we are as a culture, And the ending line of this trailer is, "We need you to hope again."
Yeah, I love that.
I think this is a movie that's gonna be about now, set then, and I
And set the future. Yeah, yeah. Isn't it cool if it jumps all around, but we never see present day at all whatsoever?
yeah, and I do genuinely love the idea that these will continue on as period pieces. I think it would be weird to reboot and then jump to, like, are we gonna get, McAvery and Fassbender in like older
Yeah,
makeup if we
it
jump
would.
to now? Like, I don't know. That's why I always assumed that the end game of this movie was to get those two forward in time to now. Because you have the two actors everybody likes playing these two characters, and you don't have to deal with how old the previous actors were. But now it doesn't look like that at all.
Yeah, and also the not too distant future thing works on the page in a way it doesn't work as well on screen.
Right.
Because in X2, and they did a decent job, at least especially in the first two, of trying to make it feel like it wasn't exactly set right at the moment that it came out.
Except for the
but
Backstreet Boys song.
but let's face it, we got that Backstreet Boys song, and there are other things about X2 especially that make it look like the year it came out. And it's hard to watch that again in 2013 or whatever and go, this is in the future. No, it's 10 years ago.
Well, it's
So
10
if you
years in the
make the
future
period pieces,
of 2002, which is like 2004.
yeah, but they're, it's hard to entirely enjoy them that way, I think.
I think the first one holds up timelessly. I don't think it's as good as the second one, but I think in the like period aspect, I think the first one actually holds up stronger than the second one.
I think so too.
Not that I think it holds up stronger as a movie because it's got major issues. I still like it, but it's
Yeah, I'll
really
tell you,
short and jumpy.
originally, getting back to massive, ridiculous speculation. Originally, before I saw this trailer, I really wondered if they were going in a reboot direction, because I'd already kind of wondered about that. If they were going in a reboot direction, I had kind of wondered if maybe they weren't going to reboot all the way to the degree. I mean, even paving over First Class and going all the way to, we're going to do First Class again, but it's the original five X-Men from the comic books.
See, here's the thing: is if it's an in continuity reboot, everybody should still get born around the same time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. How could that possibly work unless we just straight up went to another universe and then at that point just reboot it?
But
Start.
I know Gambit's still kicking around, and Singer specifically said he wants to do Gambit. So if we go directly into the 80s, we can use Gambit.
Well, that's true because he wouldn't be much younger than he was in
You know
Wolverine.
who I feel bad for if this
I
is
don't,
if this is a complete reboot?
well, actually, I don't know. He'd be like 20 years younger, wouldn't he?
No, Gambit was in X-Men Origins, which is in the 70s.
Oh, it is, isn't it? See, I
It doesn't
forget.
feel like it at all. Don't worry.
It goes through some different time periods at the beginning, and I was second guessing myself because I was like,
Because
well,
it
it
ends
is in
with
the.
5 Mile Island, which I think is 78.
Okay, I'm sorry. We talk about these movies and they're all convoluted, and I can't remember what we're talking about. Anyway,
But
yeah,
you know who
okay.
I
So
feel
that
bad for if this is a complete reboot?
he wouldn't be very old at all. Yeah, that would work. Yeah,
The Wolverine. It just came out, and now it's completely superfluous. We had this big moment at the end with the claws, and nobody cares.
yeah. It's not going to matter if we don't go forward. But to be fair, we know this is probably Jackman's last movie.
Yeah, well, and I mean, the Wolverine's good enough that, it doesn't matter if nothing follows up from it. But I
It
didn't.
stands
Hasn't
alone. Yeah,
Jackman said this is his last one?
that's what I was saying. I think he has. Yeah.
Which, man, he put in his time.
Oh God. Yeah.
How many films is that? Three, four, five? Is that right? Six. This will be his sixth X-Men film plus a cameo. That's Doctor No, Mercy Love, Goldfinger, Thunderball. That's more than Sean Connery did in his initial run as James Bond.
That was hilarious. Yeah, and Sean Connery didn't have to eat that many full chickens. I'm just
And he
saying.
was tired of the movie. He was tired of the role by the time he got to the end of it.
Yeah, not Jackman, man.
Um,
He loves Wolverine. I tell you, I also think it's really funny for it to be Wolverine of all people that has to go back in time after he told Professor X and Magneto to F off in his cameo.
Oh, thank you for saying that. Okay, so we've had an F-bomb in First Class. We've had an F-bomb in the Wolverine. Do you think we're going to continue this? Because I really don't hope so. It's kind of funny. As an adult, I like it. I don't like that you have to wait till your kids are a certain age now to see X-Men movies.
Well, and thanks for being a different person saying that, because I feel like I say that all the time, and
No,
you know,
you know what? I minded it less in the Wolverine because that was such a dark film in certain
you wouldn't
ways.
take your yeah, you wouldn't take your 7-year-old to that anyway.
Well, you might, but you would walk out being like, I shouldn't have taken my 7-year-old to that.
Yeah,
Um,
but like First Class, that's the only thing except for the coin in the head.
well, and you know they go to that strip club kind of, but it's like a '60s strip club, so it's like
Yeah, you know,
it's
and
like a
you see
shampoo
it.
commercial now. Um,
Yeah, and I also like that that you have that scene where Angel takes her top off, and you think that she's actually taking her top off, but she really hasn't.
well, that's in the strip club.
I know, but what I'm saying is, you go to the strip club, but there's no nudity, and there's not even any like a hidden nudity. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
well,
Like
it's a '60s strip club. It's like a shampoo commercial.
no little kid would watch that and have any idea what they were looking
No,
at.
not at all.
That's what I liked about it. But then we have an F bomb. Like that's totally
And
counterintuitive.
it's really funny, but I hope it's not a trend that they continue in the X-Men films because I mean it.
I don't like the Juggernaut line in X3 for exactly the same reason.
I don't like it because it's dumb.
Well, I also don't like it because it's dumb.
And I think the thing that makes it so glaring in First Class, and I guess in the Wolverine as well, the rest of the film doesn't have language like that. Like they don't swear a lot in these movies. They're almost smarter than that. Um,
I agree with you. You know, if I had the skills, if I were one of those people that like went in and did like fan editing for things,
you would
I
just
would
cut
totally
that
go
one
back.
line.
I would no. This actually has nothing to do with anything, but I would go back to X3 and I would change that scene where Juggernaut shows up and I would make it the Kool-Aid Man. And then instead of that line, he would just say, "Oh yeah," and then like he probably would look behind her and be like, "What is the Kool-Aid
see,
Man
see,
doing?"
I would just condense that entire scene so that he runs in, falls through the floor, and gets stuck.
I was always impressed with the Kool-Aid Man too, because like, isn't his pitcher made out of glass?
Um, it could be plastic.
I guess it could be plastic. Yeah.
Uh,
Well, anyway. Well, did you have any other predictions or anything you wanted to mention about what you think they're going to do? What are they going to do past this? Because
well, we
my
know
big
X Force is next.
yeah, but what are they going to do X-Men wise past this? Because X-Force is going to feel like a spin-off.
Well, you know, it's funny because I actually think that's what they should have done years ago. Is do an X Factor movie, do an X Force movie, do a New Mutants movie. You know, you don't have to have X-Men every year. You can
Instead
do,
of and also that would have helped us not have to cram in a bunch of random characters that we barely did anything with.
yeah, yeah. Oh, exactly. I'm kind of interested to see if X Force has Cable or not. Not that I want Cable, but you're either doing the Wolverine-led Everybody's in Black X Force, or you're doing the Cable-led X Force. Like that's kind of all you have to pick from. Um,
Yeah, and I would be really surprised if they didn't put Deadpool in that.
that was one of the characters that Singer named that he wanted to play with was Deadpool,
Oh, really?
which might
Okay.
just be a name drop to appease fans.
Yeah, it might be,
Uh,
but that means he probably won't be in X Force
yeah,
unless Singer doesn't know who's gonna be in X Force because he has nothing to do with it. I don't know how much involvement he has with that movie.
I'm I feel like he's now the creative controlling force of this franchise. It feels
Well,
like that
I
since
just
First
wish
Class.
he'd been the creative force behind this 5 years ago.
I know. I wish they just would have waited for him to finish doing Superman.
So the big questions I have are we gonna get Apocalypse in a future film, and are we gonna get Sinister in a future film?
I really hope so. I really
I
hope
do.
I really hope the next X-Men movie is Sinister.
And can I ask you another question? Are we gonna have a villain in this movie besides Trask?
Sentinels.
But I mean, are we going to get a villain besides Sentinels?
I don't think so.
Well, I would be very impressed with them if they weren't doing a supervillain.
Well, big robots. I
Well, I know, but I haven't seen a lot of. I mean, well, because it's been so long since I've read it. Does Days of Future Past have any villains besides Sentinels?
yes, that's actually where Mystique and her Brotherhood of Evil Mutants is introduced.
Well, I'm an idiot. We've got two Magnetos, so I guess we've already got enough.
You know what I want? You know what I want from an
Yeah,
X-Men
I'm
movie?
sorry, that was dumb. Magneto clearly is our villain. I mean,
I want
yeah.
an X-Men movie where Magneto's not the bad guy at the end of the movie because we've had four of them now. This
Well,
could be
yeah.
five. I know Magneto's important. I love Magneto. He's fantastic. Can we have somebody else?
But I'm just saying you don't want to take his teeth away.
No, oh no, no, no. But just do one movie without him. Do a movie with Mr. Sinister or I
I
don't.
agree with you, but this isn't the one.
Oh
Like
no, 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 no.
X3 would have been the one, right? Like that would have been the place to not do Magneto.
I'm not
And what I
saying this
loved
movie.
about
I'm saying past this.
X2 is that he's not the main villain and he doesn't do anything evil until the last like 10 minutes of the film.
Well,
but I totally see what
X-Men
you're
2
saying.
kind of didn't have a supervillain. It kind of just had what's his name?
Well, that's true, and that would make this a very Singer thing to do.
Yeah,
So no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, in fact, I guess X Men movies don't have traditional supervillains in the way that other things do.
I
Always.
think X-Men 2 gets kind
Yeah.
of a bad rap now. I think a lot
Oh
of people
really?
see, I think a lot of people see it as like old superheroes. So I kind of like how Sam Raimi Spider-Man have been cast. Like there's almost like a line in the sand, like pre-Marvel and Dark Knight. There's those superhero movies. And then there's
Yeah.
the really good stuff. And I feel like X2 really holds up. I think X2 is still one of the strongest superhero films we've had.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
Well,
I'm really
you're gonna get no argument from me. No argument from me. It's still my favorite X Men movie. But I think that this one is gonna give it a run for its money.
I think this one's going to get First Class to run for its money, which is
I do
saying a lot
too.
because I think First Class is phenomenal. It's one of my
My
top three favorite superhero films.
my biggest fear with this movie is that it's gonna, and again, I don't want to get my hopes up too much. It's possible it won't be as brilliant as the trailers are
It
making
could
it
be
out to look. Who
awful.
knows? It could be awful, but I don't think it's likely to be
No,
awful.
and as
But
much as Bryan Singer's stuff hasn't been great leading up to this, he turned in solid X-Men films, and this looks like it's going to continue with that.
but my fear is you get to the end of this movie and it has this genius ending and it ends up looking like the be all end all to X Men movies, and you never want to see another one. That's my fear.
Um, I would be okay with that. I don't think that's a problem.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is, and then if there's not anything but really not so great ones after it, that would be sad.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you're going to get me to see another X-Men movie if you throw Mr. Sinister in it
Oh no, me too. I just, what if they make a movie
or
that
Nimrod.
that would be such a good finishing cap off, don't make any more kind of movie,
I
and then they
think
make
this
more.
is going to be that for the previous films. I think this is going to be a closing, a closing of the
Of
curtain.
one door and opening another one.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Also, Mojo. I will totally see a Mojo movie.
Oh God.
I'm just saying. I will see. Actually, I do love Longshot. So if your movie's got Longshot and Mojo, I'm totally down. Um,
Yeah, well, like I said, the big things I want to see at some point, not in the same movie, are Sinister and Apocalypse. I really think an Age of Apocalypse movie could be really great.
I don't think we're gonna get one at least immediately after Days of Future Past.
Oh, you don't?
Wouldn't that be too much of the same?
Well, yeah, probably.
Um, I, I,
Unless
I,
they do something way
I think
different.
also it'll never be called Age of Apocalypse because of Age of Ultron.
No, no, and that's weird. I just think I still think Age of Ultron is a weird title because I feel like that never would have been called that if it hadn't been for Age of Apocalypse.
Probably, but I
It's so weird in my brain.
Sinister and Apocalypse are really connected, so I could see them doing those two in the same movie. I think it would be nice to see. You know what I want to see? I want to see the next set of X-Men films have kind of an overarching, like maybe have like a trilogy.
Yeah,
Um, you,
that'd be fun.
like a concise, like okay, film 1, this happens. Film 2, Mr. Sinister shows up, does this. Film 3, everything builds to apocalypse. Like something like that. Um, I don't know, and I'm excited to see spin-off films. Like, I'm excited for some kind of X Factor or New Mutants or actually, you know what? If they want to tap into the pulse of Marvel, do a New Mutants TV show that's in continuity with the X-Men films. Like just a show about kids at Xavier's school.
That could be cool.
It worked in the comics.
Yeah. I think what they should do is they should have McAvoy. I mean, they should have McAvoy play Onslaught.
You want an Onslaught movie?
Yes, let's
What
do
if
that.
what if there's some kind of contractual obligation that if they do Onslaught and X-Men, Marvel has to do a Heroes Reborn movie?
Oh no. Yeah, I think they should do that.
Actually,
And then the third installment of Amazing Spider-Man is One More Day.
followed by the Clone Saga.
Is One More Day, except with Gwen Stacy instead of
One more
Mary Jane.
Clone Saga.
One more Clone Saga day of Future Past.
One more Clone Saga year. Just that Spider-Man comic.
So what they should do is the next X-Men movie is set in the 80s, and then the one after that is set in the 90s, and they do this as a trilogy, by the way. So one is 80s, the second one is 90s, and then the third one is called Days of Future Present.
And then, of course,
but it's not actually based on that story at all. It's a totally different thing.
Just like First Class is completely different. And since, obviously we'll have Apocalypse in that third one, we will also do a spin-off set in Egypt called Apocalypse King. And we will also have two lesser sequels that are directed to DVD starring other actors playing Apocalypse.
That's great.
Who would you cast as Mr. Sinister?
Oh boy, I don't even know at this point.
See, my casting is the bad guy in Thor 2. So I don't know.
Oh, you're right. Eccleston would be great for that. Right? But Eccleston's for everything. Yeah.
Eccleston was my pick to take over for Red Skull as well.
Wow. Yeah. Well, it's like who has the best devious smile right now would be the person you'd want in that.
You know who would be fantastic as Mr. Sinister?
Who's that?
But they could never get to do it.
Yeah.
Ian McKellen.
Well, I mean, 20 years ago.
You throw some makeup on him, he could do it. Actually, you know who would be really good, but again, they could never get to do it. And this isn't a joke, but he would actually be a perfect Mr. Sinister. Gary Oldman.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
He played Dracula. Like, he's perfect.
Okay, I've got a bizarre backdoor pick.
Okay.
I just thought, I don't do this fan casting thing, but because I'm not good at it. But I think this is going to sound counterintuitive, but I think it could work. Anthony Stewart Head.
I could see that. Yeah, no, I could totally.
I see Sinister with a British accent.
Yeah.
Or potentially with a British.
His last name is Essex. Of course he's.
Yeah.
He's British.
Yeah, I think it's Anthony Stewart Head.
I can see that. I don't see him being the major villain in any kind of major film since
I don't care. He totally should get more roles because he's great, and I don't know how he never became.
As long as he sings, I'm in.
Well, I can see Mr. Sinister singing. We can make it a musical. We could do the Mr. Sinister X-Men musical.
Oh man, what if they use that Gillen story arc where everyone's sinister and they have like a sinister choir?
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Or silly.
An entire storyline to get to the line once everyone is sinister.
Yeah. Oh man, I really liked that art.
I know, it was so good.
It was the goofiest thing in the universe, but it was also really creepy.
Yeah. The giant sinister head.
Sinister head that, like, at first it's on a building and then it's just floating around everywhere.
It was so good.
I really expect it to have its own means of propulsion.
And none of the Sinisters are like period matched. Like, all of them have completely different outfits.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, they all look like they're in like some wax like doll gallery or something.
But yeah, there's a lot of ways that you could go with a X-Men. And we have not heard anything, right, about what the next X-Men film will be, or if Singer will return, or anything like that, right?
No, I imagine they'll keep that real hush hush for a long time because I'm afraid if they tell us too much about what they're doing next, it's going to give away the ending of that movie.
Well, the second after this movie comes out, or like the week before, it's going to be, Singer signed for another X-Men or something like that.
I just hope if they do that, they don't say anything
Oh, no,
that would
no.
tell us like. But what I'm saying is, if they start also saying, and here are the actors that are signed, then we're going to be like, well, we know what the ending of this movie is.
I may I may try to go on media blackout as the trailers lead up to this because I have a fear that this is one of those movies where the trailers are going to spoil a lot. I give them so much props not for having Sentinels in this.
Well, yeah, me too. And I meant to say this earlier when you were talking about how this movie is a post-apocalyptic thing where they put the message of optimism right at the forefront. Isn't it neat that we have a post-apocalyptic, or at least a movie with a post-apocalyptic background, setting where we don't see freaking buildings fall down?
Yeah, no, we see some glass break and some people run down some hallways.
Yeah, but that's really great because man, I'm sorry, but you've seen that once and you've seen it 1,000 times. Like we sell so many movies that way. Okay, and in this movie, we're gonna see buildings fall down. I really hated that with the Man of Steel trailers.
Yeah,
Because
but when we
I
get the
was like,
trailer for the new Godzilla, we're gonna see Godzilla push buildings down, and that's gonna be dope.
well, that's because that's why you go see those. Like, yeah, no, wouldn't it be great if you had? No, they should make a Godzilla trailer that looks like this trailer.
I want to recut the '98 Godzilla trailer so that
Where
it
it's like
looks really dramatic.
really intimate and solemn.
And then it ends with "That's a lot of fish."
Oh man, that's hilarious.
I love the idea of selling a Godzilla movie on like emotion and pathos.
Yeah, we need 2.5 minutes of really quiet, solemn piano music in the next trailer.
I should mention because I'm sure somebody will mention it in the comments. The music for this trailer is, I guess, from a movie called Sunshine, which I haven't seen, but all of my friends love.
I saw that movie when I was not a kid, but when I was in high school, and I didn't really care for it if I remember right. But boy, it's been so long.
Well, it stars apparently Cillian Murphy and who plays Captain America.
Oh yeah, I forgot he is in that. By the way, let me reiterate, it is Cillian Murphy.
Is it?
Yep.
That's so much cooler.
Yep, I had to mention that in my superhero rewind no price show because I totally messed that up and like 40 people were like, "It's pronounced Killian."
That's so much cooler. I thought it was Cillian because it's a C. I thought it was a soft C.
Yeah. What I found out was that when I did research for why I was wrong was that Killian is not a very popular name, and I want to say it was I think it was an Irish name. I don't remember. I don't want to start getting a bunch of things wrong about that again right now. But anyway, it's usually spelled with a K.
Right.
So they not only named him, his parents not only named him a really unusual name, but they also spelled it really unusually.
I'm just
And that's
saying,
what
you're
it
in prison.
sounds.
You don't mess with the guy named Killian.
No, 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 you don't.
Although maybe that Killian because he looks kind of wimpy, and I think I could take him.
I don't know. He's really creepy though.
He is really creepy, and he is named Killian. Maybe not.
Maybe
He went out for Batman. He doesn't think he's creepy.
maybe he could be Mr. Sinister.
Oh, he would actually be a really good Mr. Sinister.
That could work. I bet he'd do it too.
And The Rock as Apocalypse.
Would you like to see my mask? Probably
Actually,
a guy like you.
that's not a mask, that's your face.
What's wrong with your face?
Actually, Liam Neeson would be an amazing Mr. Sinister.
Oh, you're totally right about that. Although I don't know if he would because he's kind of deadpan, right? I mean, well, that's not the right word, but I mean, like, I've never seen Liam Neeson really smile. Can he do the creepy Mr. Sinister smile?
He does something similar in Darkman. He has that creepy smile when he wants the bear.
Yeah, which by the way still gives me nightmares, dude. Like, oh my god, that scene, that
It's
is
my favorite
terrifying.
scene in the movie.
It creeps me out. It's terrifying. It's the thing that makes me go, oh yeah, this was a B movie. Okay.
Oh, I love that movie.
Oh, I like it. I like it quite a bit too. Man, I had to analyze Darkman.
It's not an analytical movie.
No, it's not. Because the whole message of it is it's one of those movies where the whole message is spelled out in the last 3 minutes of the film.
That Bruce Campbell was in this movie.
No, it's just, and here's what the film means. I'm like, yeah, I got it.
Oh,
It wasn't all that.
okay. Whenever I think about the ending of the film, I just think of, hey, there's Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, which is a really cool thing if you know who Bruce Campbell is. But if you never saw a Bruce Campbell movie, you'd be like, oh, okay. I guess
Do you think
because
there's
they're.
anybody that goes back to that movie is like, hey, that's the guy that was in the Spider-Man movies?
I bet so. Yeah. If anybody goes back to Darkman,
Well, I mean, like, hey, I like Spider-Man. What else has this guy done? Oh, he did another superhero movie. Oh, this isn't anything like Spider-Man. Hey, it's the guy from Spider-Man.
oh man, that guy got ran over while he was in a manhole, and he was also in Spider-Man. Well, anyway, we're derailing and not talking about X-Men and coming up on an hour. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to this, Eric?
I
Any other
have
ideas where things
one
are?
other thing.
Okay, what's
It's
your
a
one
very minor thing.
thing?
Do you think Stanley's cameo is in the 70s or the future? Because I
um,
want to see post-apocalyptic Stanley.
I'm also calling this. I think Claremont's in it somewhere.
I hope so. I hope John Byrne's in it. I
But yeah, I think the best thing ever would be if Stanley was in the post-apocalyptic
I want
future.
Stanley running from bombs.
Yeah, I really want that. That would be great. Or maybe he's a Sentinel operator.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Maybe he's sitting behind a desk and he's like, Mr. Trask, this one went offline.
That would be so good.
That would be really funny. Hey, you know what would be really cool, but I really doubt it would happen? If you got to the end of this movie and we got Master Mold.
You know, that would be really cool. Actually, you know what? I'm calling it now. That's the villain at the end of the movie. We're gonna think
That's
it's
why I said at the end. You get to the very end and you're like, oh man, there's a Sentinel running all the Sentinels.
we're gonna think it's Trask, and then maybe like, in the third act, it's gonna rebel against Trask, and we're gonna have Master Mold.
I think that would be really cool.
I'm thinking that's where we're going.
You're joking, right?
No, I'm serious. I think in the third act of this movie,
Yep.
the Sentinels turn on Trask, and there's like a big leader Sentinel named Master Mold.
I would be pretty excited if I was right about that.
Yeah, no. I think that might be your big villain for the movie. Is I think it might be Master Mold. Although here's the problem with this story. The Sentinels aren't threatening, right? Because everything that's going on is happening in the 70s. The Sentinels aren't in the 70s. You need an antagonist. What is the antagonistic force of the 70s that's making Wolverine, Professor X, and Magneto have to move at any quick pace?
Well, that's a good point. I mean, I really got the feeling that in the '70s it would just be Magneto is the bad guy, and that like he's causing all of this destruction and making it, and he's the reason that Professor X has
But
left.
but Magneto says
And
you'll need both of us.
I know, but that's my point. Is that well, that would be your whole thing. There is well, it's going to be hard to put those two people together,
I think they're sending Nimrod back.
right?
I think that's what's going on. I think Nimrod.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what it is.
Of course.
Well, anyway, hey, everybody in the comments, let us know what you think is going to happen in Days of Future Past. One of the reasons that I'm so excited about this is because it's one of the most fun superhero movies to come out for me to speculate about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, real fast
It makes
before
my imagination run wild.
real fast before we go, I was actually just recently listening to your X-Men commentaries,
Yeah,
and Shades is trying to defend the animated series as
yeah,
not being super 90s.
yeah.
There's a
He's wrong.
there's a scene in like the first or second episode where Cyclops says something to a Sentinel, and then completely non-ironically follows up with "not."
Yeah, nobody says that now. Oh, by the way, I wanna say that Shades was supposed to be here with us, and he wasn't able to make it. So sorry we weren't able to have Shades on. I hope Shades makes a video on his own channel. I really want to know what he thinks about this. And we didn't even bring up Cyclops, and I'm sure he's going to
Oh
be
yeah,
upset
there's
to
no
fix the
Cyclops.
Cyclops thing. But I really don't think he's going to be in this movie.
You know what I hope?
Although he could be. I know people said they thought they saw him on the set, so I don't know. But
I hope that if this is a complete reboot, we get a new Cyclops and he's treated better. Because
well,
I love Cyclops. Cyclops is my
I
favorite X-Men.
yeah, I'm going to be really upset if we get a reboot and we can't find some way to bring him back.
There's no reason that we couldn't bring him back now. He died off screen. You could just say he left.
Well, that's true, and then what you got to do in the in the regular X-Men movies is just catch up to him. I mean, when you go back to the '70s, all you got to do is catch up to him.
What if Cyclops is Master Mold? What if we get there, it's the giant James Marsden is like, you never paid attention to me.
But I'm being serious about this. I think that what they could, I just thought of this, and we were going to be done, but I just thought I think what they could do, even if they don't have Cyclops in the future, and who knows, all they have to do is in one of these movies, just like I said, catch up to where Cyclops is, and then just have him be a student at the school.
I'm calling it now. The ending of this movie is Xavier with a younger Storm, Jean, and Cyclops.
I think you're right. I really think that's what they'll do.
I'm calling it.
That'd be cool.
And maybe Beast is still kicking around, which, by the way, we see him for a split second. His makeup looks so much better than it did in First Class.
Yeah, well, I knew they'd fix it because everybody complained about it.
And they have more money this time and more prep time. Because everybody forgets how, like, First Class was a cheap movie that they made real fast.
Yeah, and boy, it doesn't look it.
No, there's a couple of points in the movie you can kind of tell it. There's a couple of like leaps in logic where I'm sure if they'd had a little bit more time, it wouldn't have been there. But yeah, no, Beast looks better this time around.
That is some well integrated CG for not having a lot of money, man.
Oh yeah,
because the plane stuff looks pretty good, and the ship, I mean the boat stuff looks pretty good.
Yep, yep.
Well, anyway, now that we have done a quick micro review of the effects of First Class,
That's
and
about as long as the movie Days of Future Past will be.
Yeah, well, yeah, we probably could have come up with all kinds of other possibilities. That's the thing, is that my mind just runs wild with this. We're gonna get off, and I'm gonna think of 3 other things. Oh man, they'll do that. Yeah. Now that we said that, I'm hoping for Master Mold. Anyway, everybody, thanks as always for listening to the podcast, and hope you enjoyed it. And we'll be back with more stuff with you here on Geekvolution very, very shortly. And I'm hoping to have Shades on the channel again soon. He and I are kicking around a couple things, and we're talking about doing a commentary soon for something that's not X-Men, because we ran out of those.
I was totally gonna say you should do commentary tonight of the Sentinels.
Oh, that's a great idea. I'll pitch that to him. That's a great idea. By the way, I know the X-Men animated series isn't on Netflix anymore, but if you have Amazon Prime, it's there.
Oh, cool.
Or at least I think some of it. I don't think it's all there, but some of it is. Anyway, everybody, thanks as always for listening. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And we'll talk to you later.